It's my understanding pretty much that with the whole recap that we got this chapter, because it wasn't in the same way of like, oh, let me just do like a 5 second bit. It was in the style where Lucy is reading a passage out of her writing, and from what we've had so far, every time that that happens, it's to signal like another step in events and to kind of like, usher in the next phase as to what's going on. The one thing, the one thing when she was like going over everything, everything that everything that like we were like given and like I agreed with and understand for the most part, was very direct. The I wish we would get a little bit more of the wording like in detail when she's talking about the dragonization magic and how it brought back the other dragon gods. I still really want to get a quick moment into going into the specifics of that, because I've at least, from at least what I've noticed, when the dragon gods get the Lacrima implanted in their body, it seems to not, it's not like how like the white mage kind of like control, it made them the same, but like their allegiance was just kind of switched over. It seems more so that the dragon gods play more into an aspect of like their instinct or their own desires, because they're all acting different. Like Mercphobia acted more like, I said, like an animal that was hunting, like looking for food. He wasn't too aggressive or crazy. Alderon just seems to be going ape shit. Ernez ended up wanting to have a fight that he was enjoying. Celine, I guess, immediately just left and kind of went somewhere else. And these all kind of check into like aspects of their own desires, and it would give us again a little bit of knowing what exactly is going on in detail. Is it going off of the instinct, and that's what it's putting into people? Because there's just a little tiny details that I would really like to see explained in the large scope, to see if it's like, is it just going to be they were mind altered, or is it going to be irrelevant later? Who knows? But the whole bit when it was saying how the Erasion Sex and the Erasion Sace were fighting and it was like evenly matched, I still think that's really funny. I think that's probably the funniest line in the whole little recap, because uh, like, one, it's not even like the ones you could say even. It looks kind of like Gaia and Hot Eye for the most part, even because we that's the one we really saw nothing of. But even in the glimpses of, they're just kind of getting in physical like little push matches. I mean, I think Gaia is stronger, but it's like the one out of them that at least seems relatively, these characters are noticeably enough to each other that it's not like it's not gonna be equal. Like, what are you talking about? Because I mean, like, you look at him, Racer was getting completely knocked around. Cobra was having trouble just dealing with the soundless style of Blade's assaults. Angel was getting relatively beaten by Damon. The one that was the worst, I'd say the one that was directly the worst, that we didn't see much of, but just in the glimpses of, was Gate and Merity, because Gate looks like he's just standing there, and I really doubt that he's trying too hard. And then the last one is Zero and Midnight. I still don't think that, like, that's the one that I think is least likely to go in any of the favors of the Erasion Sace, just because, like, with the other ones, you got to keep in mind the fact that they're Aetherius means that they are ultimately expendable. They're easily replaceable. So you could have the regular Aetherius lose and it not be a problem, because Ferris could just be like, oh yeah, cool, made 5 better ones, not really an issue. The only one for sure that I believe has to have a level of plot reasoning is Zero. Unless Zero is just going to be the first example for her making Aetherius using corpses of old characters. Maybe she's going to pull out Zancro or Hades or something. But the other one being, like, I have personal stakes in Gate, just because like he just seems like he's that one that is the surprise, like, super powerful one. But Zero, it just doesn't make that much sense to me to bring him back specifically and then just have him lose in this fight. What, just to give Midnight a level of like a flashback and a little bit of story? I feel like that would be a little odd, unless there was something grander to do with that. Like, again, oh, Zero was a corpse that was made to Aetherius, kind of like Natsu, and that's what she was going for. So maybe again you get like 2 other characters, like Zancro or Hades, and it's showing that Ferris has been trying to make her own version of E&D. Maybe that's what it is. On top of that, these are Aetherius. So they're all in their base. None of them have used any of their full demon forms. And again with Zero, I'm still very curious if because of his facial markings, he still has those the links that once they go down, he'll switch into Brain. Because my fingers crossed have been that he does that, and then Brain is in him once they use their Theorius, it's both of them at the same time. It would match the Signario sisters too, because them as two characters always being paired up, and I'll talk a little bit more about why I feel that silhouette of that two-headed dragon has to be them in a little bit. But yeah, I just don't really see the Erasion Sace having that much of a. I don't really have a lot of stakes in them right now, because like any of their fights, I just don't really see any of them winning. Because the only one that's like really weak out of them, it's like Bird is the one that I would say is probably the weakest, but he's against Racer, who's probably the weakest out of the Sace. And on top of that, I just like when I look at Bird, I just get a humbling victim for Wendy, where Wendy just gets to crush somebody. Because I thought we were going to get that a little bit this chapter, which I thought was actually really surprising. Because we got confirmation that Misfortune has been kind of like pushed onto our side. I don't think it's like full on she's going to do everything to betray Fire and Flames. I think it's just that she is not she's a cat. She's an Exceed. She's a small little cat. So, I mean, like, it's not like she is seemingly too mentally invested into this. She is just, at the end of the day, much closer to neutral. I don't think any of the Fire and Flames characters will really put against her. They'll be like, what are you doing? Get back over here. Come on. Just because I don't think anyone was taking her too crazy. I'd love to figure out what led her to the guild. If they're like, you know what, maybe we should have an Exceed. She seems pretty cool. Also, why she's always on fire specifically. Maybe she's like Julia, but she's just born elemental, and there's nothing you can do about it. But I really liked the short moments where like you had the characters all one, everybody got grouped back together, which is really cool. We got the main cast finally reunited after everyone split up. I was expecting everyone splitting up to be more of a we shouldn't have split up because it's going to lead us to be longer apart. Maybe we'll get something along those lines later, but who knows? Because I still think that the characters all with like what they've been set up, they're going to need some form of specific, not like a deep training, but like somewhere where they're able to kind of do their own thing of getting, how am I going to remaster or master and learn how to use this new thing I've gotten, this new style, or advance my abilities in some way, shape, or form? I think there needs to be some form of another time skip. Not like it doesn't have to be a year or two, but I'm hoping just like a couple months. Because one thing is like the characters they've all gotten something pretty significant to their movesets and their skills and in ways that they can advance. And I think before we get to like the end area of like some of the bigger battles, we're gonna need just like a moment where everyone can kind of recollect themselves and see what's going on. But we do get some wording just from when everyone's talking to each other. Selena's saying how they've taken down everyone except for Igni and Alderaan. I think that that's going to be something that we come back to, because a bit of this event, I'm going to do a video probably right after this talking about the dragons themselves and just like them in count, because I wonder how many, like when you think about it, I wonder how many dragons Ignia needs for his plan to be successful. And the thing is, if he's shifting over 5 locations, relatively, let's just say 5 towns, you probably only need a couple thousand dragons, like 3 or 4,000 to really kind of repopulate the world of dragons. You just have them kind of spread out and do their thing. Because with this, usually when you have a plot ongoing in events, that when some structural pillar of it is thwarted, there's like a pan into the person in charge or to somebody who has oversight over it, that's like, oh my gosh, this part of the thing did this. For example, when the Phantom Lord mech was going to use Abyss Break and destroy Magnolia, every time one of the Erasion Sace was defeated, it was mentioned that, not the Erasion Sace, sorry, the Element 4 was defeated, that their, like, the speed went down. The mech got a little slower. And we aren't getting anything like that from the Lacrima being destroyed. So I'm wondering how much of like that really matters to Ignia, because with Ignia it could be like, well, 5, I didn't really need 5. I figured 5 was going to be a lot, but also 5 kept distracted because now the number 1 is Locker or whatever's left. It's been going nonstop, and they're able to, because it's not like a town is going to be like 200 people. Like you can easily, like I said, have a few thousand there, turn those guys into dragons, and then just have them go out in the world and probably do pretty good. Because once they're turned into dragons, I don't imagine that unless they're doing anything problematic, that the fairy tale members are just gonna go and be like, let's kill them. I guess the Diablos members, maybe they'll be like, that's what we've been doing. You guys are out here, we've been murdering all these guys. I don't think they would do that really, but it would be pretty funny. Either way, we had like some good moments where we had like Ignia's like son, like explanation point question mark reveal, complete Natsu melt, like 80% Natsu like brain melt pretty much, where he's just confused and he thinks that makes Wed his kid, but they're just like, no, that makes you the uncle, dude. And I like that Wed wasn't like crazy hostile. He was just kind of like letting them do like talk and kind of sit there for a moment. But also, I will say I'm very excited to see Selene versus Alderaan. I hope that we get at least 2 chapters on that fight, and I just want to see. I want to see some really cool moves. I want to see these two, because if we're gonna have the other dragon gods all be out of commission at the moment, because we don't know if Viernes didn't disappear, he didn't dissipate and like decay into thought. So I assume that he could just come back and after a bit of period down, he'll be in his full capabilities, because that's what happened to Selene. By the time that the fight finished, Selene seemed to be back to her normal self. So I would assume after the next couple minutes that we're gonna have Viernes be relatively fine, unless he goes back to being dead. We didn't get confirmation on that. I'm hoping that he sticks around, because we had Gray fight him in his human form, and I would really like to see all of the dragon gods in their full capability kind of like existing around at the same time before the end of it. I'm still hoping we get like a Ignia versus all of them moment where he shows that he's the strongest by beating the other dragon gods. But as it were, like Selene versus Alderaan, I didn't expect Selene versus Alderaan really to be coming up. I was expecting maybe like Zero, and they were gonna fight. He was gonna fight the God Seed like brain version of Alderaan, because I figured we would get something kind of like that, where it was gonna be the other Arasion sects go and fight the God Seeds, but we only get Brain versus Zero. But it's not what we're going to focus on. We do still have the Ferris and Bestia fight that we haven't gotten back to as well. I really want to see that match, just because it's going to be 2 villains. I think it's going to be one of those matches as well where Bestia wins most of the time, but Ferris has to pull out something crazy in order to win, and she shows like just more so she doesn't mind maybe taking damage and getting hurt. It plays into like how she fights, and whatever she has later on, she knows she's going to win. It's just a process. Again, we don't know, and we know that Bestia is going to be significant for Natsu at some point later once he gets to eat her fire. But I really liked that once we had all of the members left of Fire and Flames walk out, we see them in their dragon forms. There's differences in style and degree. I like that Raj looks less like a humanoid dragon and looks more like a raptor guy, because he doesn't have any like crazy horns or like wing designs or anything. He just has this elongated raptor kind of face. And does he even have a tail? I'm trying to look. Yeah, he does have a tail. He's got these cool just kind of spikes along. I like his design in what it is supposed to be as the clear weakest thug of a goon kind of character out of the group. But I was hoping that he was going to actually fight Lucy in this, because I was hoping that Lucy was going to get a match where we have a display where it's like clearly he's strong, but Lucy is never like, it's like Lucy is like does general star dress. Raj is actually able to push her, but you're like, okay, well, she hasn't used anything really like star dress mix. She hasn't used it around Metria. It'd be one of those fights where if you actually look back on it afterwards, like you're like, oh, Lucy was never in trouble in this fight. She was trying to go at like, you know, power level gauge, like, oh, I'll see if this is capable enough. Oh, this is enough. Okay, I'll go one step above, and show that she was able to, like, I wanted to be one of those matches where she's able to defeat her opponent without it being like, oh, I had to do 110%. Because it'd be cool if like other characters had those fights, like, you know, Wendy. Because I was hoping for Wendy and Natsu versus the Signario sisters. I thought it'd been really cool against two Dragon Slayers versus two Dragon Alchemists, but we ended up getting a shift onto that with Lucy and Wendy. Again, very interesting. But I really like the idea if everyone else was having more set matches, but Lucy gets to have one where she would relatively steamroll her opponent and show that, you know, the advancement to where she was in capability. Because we did get two really good displays of their current level and their advancement in this chapter. Also, I'm wondering with the cool like little flamey dragon symbol on their name boxes, is that their official guild logo? Is that their guild emblem? Are we gonna kind of go with that now? Because that's been my complaint for Fire and Flames for what, like a year now. It's like, when are we gonna get their guild emblem? And I'm guessing it's this. This is, you know, you see it on the, if you go over to the next chapter, I'll pull it up. I'll pull up Lekka real fast, and we'll kind of look at it. I really like Lekka's design, by the way. I think Lekka looks probably the coolest. Lekka and probably Luso. I would say Lekka though looks the most badass because I like that his outfit goes into play with it, and he's got like this, his face mask turns into like this dragon jaw, and it just looks badass. Any moment you have a standout, edgy, cool in the right way design, I'm always a fan on it. That's the thing. Easy edgy can always look cool if you know how to do it. Let me pull this up. So this whole dragon head that's just right next to their name, I think this is actually pretty cool. I'm gonna assume that this is their guild logo until otherwise said. This is the emblem of their guild. But as it were, I really liked the display. I will say I like the display because first off, you have Lekka go in for a fire make. He does this heat rain where it's these cool big fire arrows kind of style come directly just above you. So I'm wondering if his style now is going to be he's doing like environmental kind of style things, like, you know, rain. He's gonna try and make the idea of kind of like calamities but in fire form. I think that would be really cool. But Gray, I was a little surprised actually at Gray this chapter because Gray goes for a shield. He just does ice make shield. I figured that it was going to be his base shield was not going to be enough, and he just has to kind of like maybe go, you know, a little bit of his Devil Slayer magic buff it, where it wasn't a lot of effort, but it was just to show that, okay, the low level is close, but it's not going to cut it, to show how easy he could adapt to it. Two, his shield is much bigger. His ice make shield is much bigger. He does it very easily and makes it's like 3 to 4 times bigger than normal. And there's a bit where Gray has like a sweat drop on his face, and it's just to indicate that it wasn't as super easy for him. But the fact that he did that in base is actually really impressive. I didn't think he was going to be able to do it in base. I thought it was going to be easy for him just to, you know, pump up the durability and the like power on it a little bit. But I didn't expect him just to do it without having to leave just regular ice make. So I will give Gray a lot of credit for that. I think that was just a good step up and show of how strong he is and where he's at right now. Wed and Urza just continues. The Signario sisters, here's the thing. I figured it was going to be the Signario sisters versus Natsu and Wendy. And it would be like outside of Wendy's obvious extreme versatility with enchanting, we are going to have, you know, 2 Dragon Slayers against 2 Alchemists. Because like we saw that with World Alchemy, it can be... Maybe it was the reason for it. You didn't need 2 Dragon Slayers in there. It's like if you can destroy their stuff faster than they can work around it, it seems to be the general kind of mechanical weakness to World Alchemy. And like the Signario sisters, they go in, they get like an attack on Lucy and Wendy, but both of them get like a turnaround, a hit back on them. And it's not the same way because there's at least some, like, not a lot, but a little bit of damage on them when the Signario sisters attack. And they're able to block Lucy and Wendy's attacks, but, like, Lucy and Wendy are in base, and they're surprised. You have to give them the fact that they weren't expecting, clearly, that they were going to be able to respond to that. And on top of that, with them, they seem a little bit surprised at their own power because this is new that they're at this state. I like their designs too. I think both of their designs in the their Dragonized form are really badass. I like their horns. I really like the cool, just kind of additions with their claws and whatnot. But I will say, in their fight, I'm I'm kind of hoping like theirs is probably the most interesting right now. The Gray versus Lekka, I think is going to be really cool. But I'll get to that in a second. I want to. I think this will be the most intriguing fight because it's going to be the weirdest. Is you have the Signario sisters versus Signario sisters versus Annie and Luso. You have the Signario sisters versus Lucy and Wendy. So you have Wendy, who's extremely versatile in her capabilities of just like enchanting, and then Lucy, who has this massive array of abilities that she can go through. So you have just again widespread moveset, pretty much four-way, and I'm hoping that we get more of a direct even fight because with the I will say I'm hoping that if Raj and Natsu are not going to fight, we have Urza like go over and fight Raj. I don't think it needs to be like a full like okay, I'm doing an opponent shift for this whole sequence. I think it should be something again where Urza. It'd be like if Lucy fought Raj. I think it would be a more of a display of okay, showing how where she's at capability wise, showing that she's able to assess her opponents a little bit better. She's able to shift through her forms and her summons without, even a part where she's like, oh well, this form isn't enough, but it's not to where she's taking a beating in response to that decision. She just maybe like ducks and weaves and counters like an ability or an attack that Raj does, and then switches to a form that she either thinks will work or just going up to like maybe like a Stardress mix and going from there. There's a lot in there that you can have just from pretty much a skill and capability difference type of fight. But if you have Raj versus Urza and it's more of Urza just getting a test dummy, and it's somebody that isn't, because I don't think Raj is gonna be a super weak opponent for her. I think with Natsu just has Natsu already has so much more instinct and style into how dragons fight, especially in human form, than how Raj is. Especially because Raj is an illusionist; he's not a direct fighter. As far as we've seen, maybe he's probably gained some direct fighting capability since he's been dragonized. But someone like Urza, I think it would be a little bit trickier of a fight for her. But also, she wouldn't be able to turn off her brain and beat her opponent. I think it would be one of those ones where she's like, I can beat this guy without a crazy amount of effort, but I need to figure out, what am I doing wrong, kind of thing with Wed. Maybe she'll work on just some of her firefighting ability, and she'll figure out how to combine some of her armor and weapons to come up with a new strategy. So I will say Natsu versus Wed, I don't really know how I feel about that one. I kind of want them to be a pure muscle meathead fight where they just clash and they're just doing they're just pressing on each other, because I think that Wed could be a really good kind of wall check for Natsu to see where Natsu's strength is in comparison to the upper people of Fire and Flames, because I think Natsu can beat Wed because he has obviously the mechanical advantage, but also Natsu should be around that. Even with Wed's recent big jump in being dragonized, I think Natsu should be fine. But I will say the thing right now that I'd really like to figure out is what exactly is going to be the large scale for the members of Fire and Flames. And let me pull up a picture really fast. This is what I want to end on. I know I'm already at 24 minutes. It's specifically that panel when Ignia starts talking about the new age of dragons and talking about the True Dragon King Festival. Let me pull that panel up really quick. Because if you look at the dragon silhouettes, I feel like that is not just I'm throwing dragon, silhouettes on the screen. I think that is a type of foreshadowing where it's like, oh, well, this is going to be something you're going to see later, because specifically there's the dragons. Here we go. Let me pull this up. Specifically the dragon that has 2 heads. I feel like that's got to be foreshadowing towards the Signario sisters. And then one of them looks like the silhouette, the original silhouette for the fire dragon god. When if you go look at Eleftheria's first mentioning of them back at the start of 100 Years Quest. As you look at the one directly under the panel, it's clear that that one has 2 heads, and that's probably like the Signario sister dragon form prototype. And then the one in the middle, if you look at the horns, that's like the same. I'll get that too, actually, just because I'm bringing it up. Let me pull that up. That's literally at the start of 100 Years Quest, so it'll take me 2 seconds to pull it up. It looks just like it's the horn style. It's a little bit different of an angle, but you can tell that it is relatively around the same look. Not 100%, but enough that you can look at it and say, okay, there's probably something there that I can see what you're talking about. Let me pull this up really fast, and then I want to get to this point, because this is where I think the whole recap at the start of the chapter was important, because generally, like I said, whenever that happens, it seems to be a a nod at, okay, well, that set of events is over. There's a new set of events that are about to come out, and you should pay attention as to what's going on. Okay, and I pulled the picture up, and then I accidentally clicked out of it. Hold on. There we go. This it? Nope, this is gray. Oh gosh, where did the picture go that I just pulled up? Here we go. So if you look at because obviously the one with the halo, the one flying, that's Viernez or Celine. They kind of got worked around. They got shifted into the 2. We know the one that's a little fluffy, and like the two on the left of the panel. Those are clearly Mercphobia and Alderaan. The one over on the most right at the bottom corner, that's got to be like, that has to be like Celine mixed with the one at the top with the halo being Viernez. Maybe they Mishima swapped them around concepts. But the one with the clear fiery wing design has to be the Fire Dragon God. If you look at the horns of that one and the one that is right at the dead center middle of the chapter, or not the chapter, of the page with Igneous saying, the True Dragon King Festival, they look strikingly similar. So it wouldn't surprise me if Mishima used that design to go to Wed, because he did something different with Igneous. He's like, well, I don't want to throw this design away. And if you did something like that, then I would hope, like I said, that this is foreshadowing that the Dragonization is only in part. Because I think it would make a lot of sense if we got a fight with, the Fire and Flame members, and the people, I'd say, this is what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping Gray beats Lekka. I'm hoping that I want Lucy and Wendy to tie with the Signario sisters. I want their fight to be inconclusive. I want Urza to lose. Well, no, if Urza fights Raj, then I want Urza to win. And then I think Wed, if Natsu fights Wed, at the very best, it should be Wed has to leave without like full loss, but it's clear that he wasn't going to win. That is like my current standing of where I want the fights. And the reason is, I think if you left a lot of stuff like Lucy versus Signario sisters open-ended to where they were, unless you do something like she just, Mercphobia key, and they just get completely fucked over. But assuming that it's more so like a longer fight, I would like, I'm hoping just not for a clean sweep, unless it's one of those ones where, well, no, because if it was Urza fighting Wed still, I would say that I would want her to lose. But assumingly, unless the next chapter opens up with Urza saying, get out of the way, Natsu, which I'm kind of hoping she does, then we'll have Natsu versus Wed and maybe a Urza versus Raj. Or we'll have a Natsu Urza team up, which actually is really cool. But I'm hoping that the fights aren't in a way that they, like, if any of the, again, if say Lekka loses, I want it to be important to their characters, because we haven't had a lot into the other members. I keep clicking this. The other members of the, let me move some of this as well, actually. Some of the members of the of Fire and Flames, but I think that there's enough for each of them to really get something easy going and get started. Maybe for Raj, I think a flashback with Raj and make him like a pretty decent character. I don't dislike him. I like his design in a funny way, and I like his dragon design in a funny way. So I will say that I hope that he sticks around to at least get a little bit of backstory, maybe get a flashback. But I'm really hoping that by the end of all this, all of them get full dragon forms, because I don't really see the point of going on only giving them partial dragon forms if the whole goal is to bring back the dragon race and to have full dragons in the world, not these halves in betweens between human and dragon. Because it makes sense if they would have a humanoid form, but if they're gonna live in a dragon world, then clearly they would want to become a fully formed dragon. So if this is like round two, like we saw some of them, and when they were humans, we see them now, and then the next time we see the members of the Signara sisters, Wed, Fire and Flame members, Lekka, maybe even Raj, they're in and Brian, they're in their full dragon forms. I would hope that for something like that, because it would also show the stages between them, zero dragon power, a hybrid, full dragon, and on top of that, I think it would make the most sense, because if this is 100 Years Quest and the whole thing is a dragon themed hunt, then it just makes sense that it would move towards all of the characters at a point getting to fight a dragon, and not just Natsu, not just Wendy, but everybody. Because on top of it, it wouldn't be, oh yeah, we're fighting a dragon god. It's okay, we're bringing in these characters that turn into dragons, that are humans that are now given dragon form, and you're going up against them, to where it's still the danger of it, but it's just completely unexpected toward you be seeing them now and everything. And like I said, I really am hoping that we get an update from Ignia relatively soon, because I don't think that everything that's happened so far, at least from a lack of reaction, it has has been a display that his plan is falling apart. I don't think that at all. And on top of that, we don't even know what Ferris is really up to. We know that she's just kind of going and being crazy, but I fully believe that she has some form of larger scale plan that she's bringing, that she's got going on. She just hasn't mentioned it at all. But anyway, other than that, comment below, tell me your thoughts about this chapter. There was like a big chunk, obviously, of recap at the start, but I think that was more of a tell, and it was more of, like I said, if in a couple chapters, or like maybe by the time this segment is over, it's one of those ones again that sets the tone going into this part, like this segment. I kind of wish that we had it done in like Tartarus arc style, to where there are parts and it's like, okay, well, this part ended, next part to this arc, because it feels like that a little bit, and I think that's been really cool about it. But we'll see. We got to have something of the Fire and Flames members where they can really pull like a surprise, because I feel like with one thing is with Gray and Lekka, I think is going to be more of a clear win for him. I would be surprised if Gray loses that fight, unless Lekka goes full dragon. But Wendy and Lucy versus Signara Sisters, I think, is going to be a really weird, but really weird yet entertaining match. I think it's going to be really fun just to see it go kind of go down. And then just in general, I kind of want Urza to push Natsu out of the way and to be like, no, I gotta fight this. Because I want Urza to be the one to fight him, because I want Wed to win again, and then Urza, like, I want some form of point where she can, get a new sword, get a new weapon, have some form of realization with her power, something that where she's gonna come back much stronger, and then Wed goes into her full dragon, goes into his full dragon form, and then Urza gets to fight and defeat him when both of them achieve like their true peaks. I think that'd be great. But like, some of these fights are just kind of weird, because I like Lekka, but I want Gray to win. The Signara Sisters, I just see Lucy and Wendy being able to pull through this, just because I think that both of them have had a lot going on, and the Signara Sisters both don't know about their full scope of their dragon buffs yet. And on top of that, I think that I think from what we've been shown, that they have good teamwork, but it's very easy, like, in comparison, for them to mess up versus, like, having someone like Lucy and Wendy, where I think aren't gonna have, they don't have they don't have teamwork friction, pretty much. But anyway, other than that, I'll talk to you guys in the next one.